Pam Schilling for a roll call, please. All righty, let's start with Mark Hill.
I'm here.
Gary Tannenbaum.
Here.
Bernie Grower.
Here.
Herschel Ross.
Here.
Rick Stevens.
Here.
Eleven is still absent. Jackie Woodsett. Here. All right. First of all, I would like to thank Grassroots for broadcasting our meetings live and for rebroadcasting. Go to www.grassrootstv.org, search for Basalt. Our meetings will be shown there and on our website at www.basalt.net under agendas and minutes. And also a reminder that tomorrow, the day after this meeting, is Coffee with the Mayor. That would be me tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. at Saxy's in downtown Basalt. If you will come, I will buy. Okay. I know. It's pretty safe. It's pretty safe.
Sounds like
Okay.
the Chateaubriand for two.
It's Saxy's?
Exactly.
Good luck. Okay, the next item is the consent agenda, and we would like to pull from that consent agenda proclamation for community service to Mr. Joe Elson, and I would say we may as well do that if he's in
He's
the
still
vicinity.
eating.
Oh, he's with his burrito still.
I'd make a motion to approve the consent agendas, items 3A, 3C, and 3D.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Joe Elson.
Yes. So before you start,
Yes, sir.
I'm going to do a 2-minute introduction, and we'll test my memory.
If you don't have a PowerPoint, forget it.
So there's very few people in life that can kind of walk around an area and say, I did that, I did that, I did that, I worked on this, I worked on that. And there's probably not been someone from this area who has left as much of a footprint as Joe has, and though he'll be humble and not tell you it. Started with CDOT Glenwood Canyon. Familiar with that road in Canyon?
He was just babysitting.
Right. Then he took a year off, traveled the world, kayaked everywhere, Grand Canyon, Nepal, Thailand, New Zealand, came back, was working on bridge segments for the Glenwood Canyon project, called Ralph Trapani and said, are you working on Highway 82 yet? He says, great time to call because I'm looking for a project engineer. So he started working on Highway 82, which included Maroon Bridge, Shell Bluffs, Snowmass Canyon. The last project that he worked on is the Grand Avenue Bridge, which is a $125 million bridge. So when you think of connectivity, especially on the western slope through here, a person who's had a direct impact on that is Joe Elson. And there's very few people that you're going to meet that touch that many projects that were that important for a region, as is the case with Joe. So that's my warm-up.
Well, we don't need to read this.
Or the proclamation.
Okay, proclamation. Joe Elson, CDOT Program Engineer, honoring service and community leadership. Whereas the citizens, staff, and council of the town of Basalt realize the strength and overall health and safety of the town has been strongly influenced by the dedication and outstanding performance of Colorado Department of Transportation Program Engineer Joe Elson and
Whereas Joe is coming up on his 30-year anniversary with CDOT and preparing to retire at the end of June, and
whereas through community engagement, collaboration, devotion, diligence, and hard work, Joe has served the valley on such projects as the Highway 82 4-lane project in Snowmass Canyon, 2 phases of the Grand Avenue projects in Glenwood Springs, and the Glenwood Canyon project in the mid-'80s, which was hailed as an engineering marvel. And
whereas Joe on a daily basis demonstrates community leadership and a willingness to go the extra mile in completion of tasks while achieving the goals and responsibility to provide outstanding and safe roadways to our citizens to our citizens of the valley.
go ahead, Michelle.
Therefore, we, the Basalt Town Council, proclaim on this 26th day of May 2015, proudly acknowledge and honor Joe Elson for his continued contributions to to the town of Basalt and the Roaring Fork Valley.
There's really no room for you to come.
Congratulations.
Thanks.
I'm not gonna hug.
And
Okay,
this-
Mayor, do a pretend.
Oh, we're supposed to do a pretend
A
shake.
pretend handshake. Should I open this up? Or?
Oh, yeah.
Alright.
This word. Oh, look at you.
Wow. Can I get that picture?
Was that a 1980s picture?
Yeah. Perfect. Thank you.
Yay, shot?
I'm humbled and honored. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
What are you gonna do, Joe?
Take a month off and then work for a consultant.
Take a month off. Who is the consultant? Not to be nosy. Joe, who is it? Who's the consultant?
HDR.
Is that Denver?
I'll be working out of Glenwood Springs.
Awesome.
Laptop and a gas card.
Woo!
Coming to see you.
We're the new CDOT bus.
Sorry?
The new CDOT bus from Glenwood.
Or the bus tag.
All right,
Thank
Joe.
you so
Thanks,
much.
Joe.
I really appreciate it.
You don't have to stay for the boring part if you don't want to. I'm sure. That's it. Okay, our next item is council comments, reports, and disclosures. Anybody, how about Mark?
I had a couple. We had the gentleman in last time, Mike, about the marijuana hours and on Sunday.
Right. Rob Holmes?
Yes. And he asked that we bring something back, so I would ask that you maybe prepare something. And in that, I've read a little blurb from the state regarding how you measure distance to be compliant with the distances from schools and stuff.
Right.
And it's by a pedestrian or street route, it's not as the crow flies. So I would ask that maybe you put that in as the state
Okay.
has written it. And then my other item was on the river out here, and frankly, I'm embarrassed as a citizen and as a councilman. I think what was there prior would work better than what we got now. And I've lived on the river, most of my life. I don't think the high water was as high as it's been. I can think of 2 other times it's been higher than that. And both times were cold May, and it warmed up all at once. This year we had a lot of rain, and that contributed to it. But what if we have a 100-year event? If that was designed to be breached, it just doesn't make much sense to me. And I'd like to see a detailed report on what happened and why it happened. Was it a mistake? Was it built that way intentionally? And the jetties seem like they just attract debris and make things worse. And until I see a detailed report that explains it honestly, I'm going to vote no on any additional funds. I don't feel like the taxpayers should have to take the brunt of a mistake that may have been made, or I went by and the fire hydrant sticking up out of the middle of the water, and I'm just like, God, I bet everybody thinks we're a bunch of incompetent people over here, and we didn't do the right thing. That's all I have.
Okay, Gary?
I was just wondering if I could comment that Jackie and I are going to go to the school board meeting on Wednesday and talk to the school board about the things that we've been talking about as a council: affordable housing, childcare, and how we work together with the school district on facility and facility planning for all the schools in Basalt. And so, it's tough. Susan and Mike tried very hard to get the school board to come meet with us directly, or for us to have on a regular council meeting. However, that is proving very difficult to impossible. So we're just going to go and do it at this tomorrow night's meeting, just so they get it in front of them because they're moving forward with a major bond issue for the facilities of all the schools. And you know, they're talking in the $60 to $100 million range. And that's a lot of money to be asking for, and it's got to benefit all the communities in the school district, Glenwood, Carbondale, and Basalt. And it really needs to address facility issues that are beyond just a new elementary school. It's affordable housing. We lost the principal of the middle school due to affordable housing and lack of it, considering the pay range for, you know, administrators and teachers. And so this is a really big issue. I'm hoping the school board has been willing to listen. I just think if it comes from us, we can get that conversation rolling, and we'll have more conversations in the future. But I want to let everyone know that we're going tomorrow just to make sure we reiterate how much we really want to work with them on affordable housing and childcare and their facilities, and considering between performing arts and whatever else they do, we just really want to be heavily involved in that.
Herschel?
I'd just like to say about the river that I think we're looking pretty smart for having moved all those trailers out of there. All of those people would have been electrocuted by now because absolutely nothing was coded. Everything was plugged into extension cords hanging off of trees. And so I think that that the safety aspect of why we got involved with that project has certainly been shown to have been not just valid, but extremely important. Just as an aside, at the very start of the whole thing, talking about it, the idea was indeed that the park half of the parcel in a high water situation was supposed to have overflow, and the parcel along Two Rivers Road was supposed to be out of the floodplain and dry, and that's the way it looks to me like it's going, even though certainly you've been here for generations. I've only been here since '79, but this is as rough as I've seen that water. So as far as I knew, that's the way things that's going on is the way the engineers planned it.
Others? Brian?
Yeah, I don't know whether to be embarrassed or not, because I'm going to wait for the engineer's report, which I agree is important that we receive and the people of Basalt receive, because I remember when I moved here in '97, there was the starting of the river master plan. I went to many meetings and heard many expert river consultants say that they were going to contour the river to make the flow cleaner, and that if there was a high water event, it would just push right on through. And I'm very interested in finding out whether their predictions or boasts, I don't know which, actually turned out to be true in a retrospective. As far as I know, there were two major high water events bigger than this, and that was 95 and 87. So, and to me, it emphasizes the need for that half of the parcel of the former Pan and Fork being park, because the riverfront parcel, as Mike has alluded to, is really a mitigation of river and wetland impacts, and it will not function like our front yard many times in many years, and it won't have that kind of, it'll have native grasses and other vegetation. But I'm going to hold my opinion until I get the report back.
Thanks, Brian. Rick, do you have anything? No?
Well, actually, I do.
Okay.
I'll just change this subject. A group is forming to do a roundtable on childcare. It'll be held at the end of the month. It is private businesses. One of the suggestions was at the joint meeting with Pickett and Eagle and daycare providers was, what can business do in light of the current needs not being met. So that actually is going to happen here in a couple weeks, a week. So hasn't been formally announced yet, but I thought you guys would like to know that there's actually an initiative underway to get major business owners involved.
Thanks, Rick. Okay, a couple months ago or some months ago, Mike Scanlon nominated one of our citizens, Julie Kolar, for Colorado Municipal League Citizen of the Year. There were 3 people chosen for that award, and Julie was one of them. And so Julie and I ran over there to Breckenridge in our cars for her to accept that award. And there were 1,500 or 2,000 people in the room. It was huge, and Julie was overwhelmed. And I just wish more of us could have been there, because it was a very proud moment. Because she is great and very humble. The other 2 recipients had a couple words to say about their projects or whatever they worked on. Julie wouldn't talk, because that's just how Julie is. But anyway, we should all be super proud of her and super appreciative of her efforts, because as humble as she is, she doesn't take any credit for anything ever, and was almost embarrassed that anyway, enough said about the wonderful Julie Kolar. I'm just happy she's not here to hear it. She get out and walk away. Right. The one other quick thing I wanted to say is that I saw in the paper that an architect was chosen to work on for the town regarding the master planning process for downtown, and I guess for everywhere, I'm not sure. And you know, it was in the paper, and it has also been pointed out to me by several people that maybe that wasn't the best plan, to have the same architect representing an applicant who was before us and may likely be in front of us again with the same architect. And I have to say, it does make me uncomfortable. I don't know what we did in the last 20 years, but it wasn't this. So I don't know if this is anything that's too late, but I don't know that it's wrong necessarily. I know it's probably saved us some time and money, but I know that there are people questioning the decision, and I would like to see us do something different as this moves forward, just so that we all look like we are a neutral decision-making body. So that's all I have. Next item is citizen comments for items not on the agenda. Anybody? There's smiles. No? Okay. Okay. Okay, items for council discussion, consideration, flood update, river information, Chief Knott.
Real quick, just an update on the Frying Pan River and a breakdown of what occurred over the last few days. So last Thursday, we received an email that they were going to bump the flows up on the Frying Pan from 450 to 700 cubic feet a second. They also said that they might shut down the Bustad Tunnel, which goes over to Turquoise Lake above Rudite, which would have put an additional 950 cubic feet a second into the Frying Pan. The reasons for doing this is they were within 4 days of filling capacity. It would have been full within 4 days. So by increasing the flows and keeping that water diversion going, they've actually stabilized the flows, and we are starting to see a decrease. When we received the information on that, what I did is I contacted the Pickens County Emergency Management Team and stood them up. So we had a 9-person incident management team that was overseeing this and planning and creating contingency plans and evacuation plans and sheltering plans for people and animals and everything under that umbrella. So it went very well. This is the first time that we, Basalt, have stood up this incident management team, and it did a great job. It really, really was wonderful to see. So to report to you today, they have started to reduce the flows on the Frying Pan. They're going to take it down to 444 cubic feet a second. Should be that tomorrow. Right now we're at 534 from 750. So the inflows into the reservoir have slowed down. They're going to keep that diversion going for at least another 8-9 days is what they believe. Then they'll reassess, and we could see the flows come back up on the Frying Pan, but nothing to the levels above 750 that we were at. So it's just a real quick update on that, and if anybody has any questions or anything that I can answer for you.
No flooding over here.
No flooding over here. We did have some seepage coming up into the trailer park, the Roaring Fork Mobile Home Park, but what we did is we brought out the Eagle County engineer, and she walked the levee and was confident that at those flows it would hold. The concern was is if it went up to 1,300, 1,500 cubic feet a second and going into that levee, but she was confident at that time. So the seepage that we're seeing is not through that, but kind of coming up out of the ground. And it's, as a technical term, it's an equalization of pressure between the river and the environment on the other side.
Okay.
And I have a quickie too. What, I should know this by now after all these years, but what is the CFS that a fisherman can walk in with waders and fish?
It varies. You know, I fish
Okay.
and
I thought there
I've been
was
on
something, a number, a magic
No.
number.
No, it's just where, you know.
Not now. How about we say not now?
Not now. That's the message that we're still giving is be cautious around the rivers, be cautious around the banks, stay back 25 feet because we don't know what erosion has occurred on some of the banks. And so that's the message that we are continuing to give out via Valley agencies.
Great. Thanks. Rick.
Well, I paid a lot of attention to this, and I'm sorry for the emails and phone calls, trying to catch up to you guys, but, 95, that 750 CFS is really the magic number for flows in the pan before they start to, anything more than that, and you do see flooding in the Roaring Fork Mobile Home Park, and they went up to about 1,100, and it was almost the exact same scenario, and you guys were able to get on top of that and manage it, and you did an extremely great job, managing all that and staying in touch with the right people and managing those flows. That didn't necessarily happen the last time this event occurred, so I really appreciate it. And, I think a lot of people don't understand what that river does, and I think that's part of the problem. I saw a tweet in the paper, something about how do you cure stupidity, or some comment like that about the river and its management. And I guess the way you cure stupidity is you come in and you offer help and suggestions as to how to make things better, and not take shots from a peanut gallery. So, I watched this for the last 6 weeks, and I really want to commend you guys and your whole team for doing what you did, and seeing what's happened in the past. And I think we dodged a bullet by having you guys manage it the way you did. So thank you.
It was a very good team. They did a great job.
Thanks, Greg.
Thank you.
So I'm the follow-on to Greg. This sort of goes with Mark. What Mark asked for, which is a report on engineering, how it behaved, did it flood where it was supposed to. And so I have 2 handouts, and I sort of went down the list of email questions that I got or pictures that I received. The first is the fire hydrant. So there's in back. And one is from the fall of 2013. So there's no snow on that side. And you will see the fire hydrant on the right side of the picture. And there were actually 3 trailers between the fire hydrant and the river. The purpose of the fire hydrant was for the trailer park. If you flip over and you see the snow, you'll see that the river is now much closer to the river. And it's because the river was actually pushed back into the site and a bow put in the river as well as the weirs, which then takes you to this handy dandy little picture, which is from 2012, December of 2012, August. And you'll see a blue dotted line.
Oh, yeah.
Which represents the floodway. And if you went out there and you looked at it today, the way it behaved was very similar to that blue dotted line in terms of how far the water came out and how far back it went, and how that corner that's next to Midland is actually out of the water, as well as the whole Roaring Fork CDC site and the RMI site that's to the left of the picture. You can also see the old existing edge of channel, which is right down the middle of the river. So you'll see existing edge of channel, and you'll see how far that new edge moved towards the north. Hence, a fire hydrant that was a long way away, with trailers between it and the river, ends up not being so far away once you move the edge of the river. And what happens is, it happens so gradually, that people didn't notice. It's a hydrant we don't need and we were going to take out. And we will be taking out, but it'll take a little longer. And that water line will also be abandoned at that hydrant. Knowing that there is a big V, we probably won't need as many water lines as once conceived. But if you look at this, and this is just a conceptual site plan, that active park area was actually on the Midland side, and the side that was downstream towards Old Pond Park was viewed as a passive park, with the idea that you have this floodway that you're having to account for in the high water events. So Larry and I have actually kind of started on Mark's study, thinking, and it's probably the last thing that Larry will be working on, which I told him, isn't it great, Larry, that we sort of brought you back to the project, and your last report is on the project you worked, designed, and helped construct.
But look how much higher that fire hydrant is above the bank. Way
Yeah.
above it. Okay, we'll just wait and see.
Yep.
All right.
Jackie?
Yes, sir.
I think too, there's a misunderstanding in the community about what we were really trying to do is clean up an eyesore and make the entrance to Basalt more attractive. But the number one priority of the River Master Plan has been to get people out of harm's way. And I think that we have to remember that when we start criticizing what's going on over there, because, you know, about the third weir down on the river here is where the levee failed in that 95 event, and there was about 3 feet of water where those trailers would be sitting. And Eagle County was over here till 2 o'clock in the morning stuffing boulders in there, and people were evacuating and floating around, and it was a mess. And I think sometimes we forget the purpose of this was not to create a big park or to eliminate an eyesore. It was to keep people from being hurt.
I don't disagree with that.
Yeah, so I mean, that's where we're at.
So I went back to the Fix the Fork site, if you remember the Fix the Fork campaign, and I went, why this project? And so I just pulled it up and just went like, so you get further away from constructing something, you kind of forget what the reasons were that you did it. And the 3 bullet points are to remove people from the 100-year floodplain, 2, to make floodway improvements that reduce the 100-year floodplain and create a flood-free area for reuse. And 3rd was to make river and wetland improvements that not only improve the floodway and floodplain, but also improve the aquatic environment for fish and other river and wetland creatures. So the idea was we're adding wetlands back, and we're trying to let the river go back to its natural flow, hence the channel that's on the south side, which I think actually relieved a lot more pressure than we realized from the flood event.
Not to get into a huge discussion, but regardless of whether it's perfect right now or not, we have far less to go to make it a natural river channel than we had a couple of years ago. So I'll be excited to see what the report says as well, but we're closer than we were.
Yeah, can I, just one more public service announcement? On PBS, they aired a documentary on the 64 floods that were in Denver and Cherry Creek and the Platte River, and they resorted to the engineered solutions for managing those floods, and they built Cherry Creek Reservoir, and they built a couple other flood control reservoirs in the Front Range that were an engineered solution to Cherry Creek and the Platte. And then internally in Denver to Cherry Creek and the Platte, they achieved all that flood control with engineered solutions as opposed to the way it's been done out here. And that this week, the storm sewer systems that they installed along those engineered solutions were full of water and backing up into people's basements. So if you get a chance to Google PBS and search around for this documentary, it's fascinating to look at what they did in the 1970s and what we did today 40 years later is a huge advance in my opinion. So it was just coincidental it was on, or maybe it wasn't coincidental, but it's kind of interesting to look back at that stuff. So, thanks.
Okay, so our next item is consideration of outdoor amplified music for an event at Tempranillo Restaurant. James?
Wait.
No? Did I miss something?
Yeah.
6B.
Oh, did I miss a total thing? Oh, never mind. Yes, we don't want to miss that. Sorry, Mike Scaling.
So
Tree
6B,
farm.
the county staff, new county manager, Scott Hunt, who's the planner that's responsible for the current Ace Lane project submittal, has asked us to meet. And we're willing to meet, but we need to make sure that what we're meeting about is parallel with what the council's direction was from December, which is what has been included in our reports, with these 5 comments being, we believe, the most important, which were the ones that you voted on, which is the negative impact of too many commercial centers. So thinking that we have a Willits in the downtown, are we creating yet a 3rd commercial center? 2, development of an urban magnitude belongs in town limits. So it's the idea that, and I think Pitkin's the one that, you know, if there's a development that's right on a town's edge, they say you have to go annex. That needs to be within the town or the city. 3, an IGA in which we use a higher of the county affordable housing requirements, because there has been a waiver that they've granted related to the housing requirements that they have on that particular site. When I heard them describe they didn't describe it necessarily as phasing, but actually micro-phasing, so a smaller amount of phases that would be constructed. And our concern is from our own experience in that at Willits, we would let Willits continue to build, and then eventually we'll get affordable housing eventually. We finally got to the point where they weren't getting there. So if you remember, part of the hotel was a condition that they had to submit plans, which they have, for the construction of affordable housing. And my fear is you could get in with micro-phasing, you could have this pile of housing credits or affordable housing units that are building up but never get built. And given the problem that the valley currently has in affordable housing, how important it is to make sure that that gets done, one at maybe the higher of the county level, so the highest we can find, and 2, gets done as the project gets built, not at some point in the future. Cost of services on town and special districts, we have a pretty good example of what happens just from this last flood event. Judy was working with the Eagle County Sheriff, called the Eagle County Sheriff over to look at the flooding, and you know, this is Eagle County, and sort of the response was, well, this is in the town of Basalt, and we had to remind them, no, it's not. It's unincorporated Eagle and Pitkin County. And then they wanted Larry to look at the flood wall, and we're going, no, you need to bring the county engineer over, Eva, to make a determination as it relates to whether or not you feel that this is safe and that we're doing all the things that we should be doing. And I think one of the problems that we have is that just by distance, just the way the county lines were drawn 145 years ago, it is hard, and it would be hard if I were an Eagle County employee to know where all the enclaves and pieces are. But I think we're only exacerbating the problem. And instead of exacerbating the problem, let's talk about how we treat the valley with all the lines kind of blurred out. And how could we better deliver services? Is it better, instead of Eagle County trying to deliver the services, then contracting with the town of Basalt to deliver services in the unincorporated Eagle County area, and to actually shift some of that tax revenue to us delivering the services? And to start thinking about those different models, not just building development and then coming back and going like, wow, I wish we would have talked about how to deliver services. The last is that underpass contribution related to the underpass between Willits and the Aceland property, to make sure that that's actually documented. And then what's kind of funny is number 6 is probably now like a number 1A or 2A, daycare, the importance of thinking about daycare if you're going to build that much of housing in that area, and knowing that we're already short. And then sort of parks, trails, signage, and lighting. How do those all mirror? If all of a sudden Eagle County's requirements allow anybody to put, and they're not going to go ridiculous with signs, but let's just say they allow a higher sign standard, or we have a higher sign standard than they do, well, a national retailer will flip to the place you can get the bigger sign, which might not be the place that a commercial business should go. So trying to take those into account, The idea would be we would meet with, Susan and I would meet with Scott Hunn and Brent McFall, the county manager, walk through these issues, see where we can get some movement or understanding. These are their next set of scheduled meetings, and I think the thing that you always have to contemplate is, while we might be able to make ground on certain issues, there's a philosophical discussion that has to happen, and there's really not a place that's allowed. And it's a political discussion about if you were to treat the Mid-Valley area as a community in which you want to do really good land use planning, and you want it to be sustainable, and you want to account for affordable housing and daycares and schools and all of those things. If you look at a development in isolation of all those things, you never get to solving those problems. You just create a new set of problems that exacerbate the ones you have. So can we talk about, if affordable housing needs to be here, well, it needs to be at a higher standard, and it needs to be built as you're building them, not in the micro phases that are described. And does that make it not a project that the applicant would be interested in anymore? And to get those issues out there so that they can be discussed, so that you're talking at the policy level, because land use applications tend to get pushed down into the rules and the bureaucracy that creates the check boxes that you have to go through to make sure you did all the things that you were supposed to do. And if you've looked at the application, is it about this thick? Roughly this thick. And it's not to say that there's anything wrong with the application. It's, are we addressing those issues that we've agreed collectively, Pitkin, Eagle, and Town of Basalt elected officials, that we need to be addressing in this development? Because it would be sad to miss the opportunity to start trying to figure out how we can take some of these on. And, a lot of housing would really help right now. A lot more affordable housing would really help right now.
I have a question for you.
Sure.
Do you think it would be helpful to have one of the county commissioners there and maybe one of us at this conversation? I'm thinking more in terms of one of the county commissioners, but can't really.
I think I'm going to leave it up to Brent to decide what he wants to do. I can recommend it, but I think ultimately, which county commissioners gets excluded becomes a problem. And I try not to speak for other managers because I don't know the issues that they're trying to deal with as it relates to this application. We only see it from our side. We don't see it from the issues that they're having to deal with related to the application.
Well, I'll just say.
It doesn't hurt if an elected official talks to other elected officials.
Right. Because I haven't really said this before, but I did go meet with Ace and Dave Mars, and just had an actually pretty friendly chat with them about if there would be something that could be worked out about commercial and other things. And it didn't really go too far, but we can talk about possible parcels of land for housing and daycare. But there's some balls up in the air on that. So
Right.
I would hate to see any of us give up on trying to meet somewhere in the middle on this.
Right.
Anybody? Rick?
Yeah, I talked to Ace too during the open house, and what Mike just described is like a complete paradigm shift for government to try and accomplish looking at a land use application outside the boundaries of the land use application. I mean, we've been instructed in here over and over again that when you're reviewing a land use application, you can only talk about that specific piece of property. And one of the tenets of the master plan in 2001 was to look outside and see where the opportunities were for things like daycare and affordable housing, and what trail systems worked, how they worked. And I think if we can accomplish doing that now, and if we go forward with our master plan effort that we're going to do with that in mind, you get some of this done with the other governments. But I think we got to allow ourselves to have those conversations, even if it is in a public hearing. We can't just stop and say, oh, you're talking about the property 2 miles away. Well, so, isn't that what you're referring to as a more holistic approach to the world around here? And I'm all for it. The one concern that I do have about that property is the access to public lands, and I'm concerned about trails and activity that allow people to move into those areas, because there's already so much available, that hoping that something gets left over for just the animals. But that's the rest of it. You know, after being down there and walking around a little bit and seeing it, I think we've worked through most of it.
Well, and I think I heard from the applicant their concern about daycare and an understanding that, hey, we didn't realize it was that dire. And yeah, there are ways maybe we should consider daycare as a use within the particular development.
Anybody else, or shall we? Thanks, Mike. Okay, now, is it really time for item 7A, which is outdoor amplified music at Temple? Hi, Laura.
Hi again.
How's it going? Hi, James.
Okay, this request is a consideration of a request by Tempranillo Restaurant at 165 Midland Avenue to have the ability to have outdoor amplified music until midnight for a special event on June 26th. In evaluating the request, staff was only comfortable approving outdoor amplified music until 10 p.m., which is consistent with the town's policy with regards to outdoor amplified music. The police department was also consulted and are concerned about getting complaints. However, staff did research prior approvals that have been granted, and the council did grant an approval last summer for an event by the BDBA to go to 11 p.m. It was an event in Lions Park, and they had outdoor amplified music until 11. So staff wanted to do a check-in and see if council wants to allow for the private event at Tempranillo to have amplified outdoor music until midnight on the 26th, or if you prefer it to be moved inside at 10 p.m., consistent with some of the other approvals we've granted in the past. We do have Laura here this evening. Do you have any comments you'd like to provide?
Well, I hope I'm not making the mistake of asking for permission instead of which I think I might be. But this is a local couple. They're getting married. They plan to have the event wrapped up at 11 o'clock. But my experience is that sometimes they go a little bit later. Music plays on our street until 11 o'clock quite often. But I really wanted to come out beforehand and say, you know, this is something that we're asking permission for this event, for this night. I do think that the music in town, the discussion, is something that we need to do more of in the future. I think it's good for the community. I think it's good for downtown, and we don't really have any strict guidelines other than sort of what's been done in the past. But I guess I just wanted to check in with you guys, and I didn't want to have any problem afterwards. But you know, if we could modify it to 11 o'clock, if you're more comfortable than that with that would be great. They plan to have their first dance at 9:30. The couple getting married, and so you know, just 10 o'clock would be kind of hard, but we can move it inside. Also, we intend to direct as a DJ playing as opposed to a band, which is a lot easier to manage. We do intend to have the speakers directed inwards as opposed to outwards. So that should reduce the impact on the neighborhood. Karen.
Oh, this brings up a really cool point that we tried to bring up a while ago, was vitality in the downtown area. We always talk about vitality, and one of the ways to get some vitality is to have things that are active and going on in downtown. And so, to me, it's not about the amplified music, it's about the volume of the music that really is the big issue. I mean, having activity going on downtown past 10 o'clock and not having Greg sitting there shutting everybody down, I think is a good thing. And I personally believe that we should be looking as a council as a way to make it clear to the businesses in town and make it clear to the residents and neighbors to have a say in all this, is to really look at, you know, this is a potential way of creating more vitality and more, you know, I don't want restaurants to have to come in if they want to go a little bit past 10 o'clock. I'd rather not be the one having to make a determination on that every single time. I'd rather have a community discussion and say, hey, we talk about vitality, we talk about all these things. If we have responsible business owners, which we do, we have music that usually goes past 10 o'clock, and then you start getting some complaints here and there. But if we clarify all this, I think that would be a huge bonus for this, for the downtown area. And you know, I have no issue with this because I feel that they will mitigate it and deal with it. So that's my point.
Anybody?
I think 11 o'clock is very reasonable. I basically would just second Gary's comments.
Okay. Yeah, Herschel?
Well, in the past, we have set times and standards for other restaurants because of neighborhood complaints and stuff. A Riverside Grill at 10 can still have music. They just have to move it inside off their deck. I think we have a little bit of goose and gander, and even a possibility of wormy cans here. If that's going to be the new standard, okay, 11 o'clock, whatever, and then maybe it runs a little over. It's got to be pretty much from everybody because we're going to hear it from everybody else. And I know you guys have, you know, in the past said that over at Heather's during the summer when they're outside, they run too late. So, I mean, yeah, you know, we're all for the vitality stuff, but I'm a little uncomfortable with giving a special time thing like midnight, even if it's for a one-night special event, to one place without giving it to everybody.
That was my point, was to really look at this as an overall.
Yeah. And if it's possible to move it indoors, well then, at a certain time, well then it's the same as we've required other people to do, and we're not making a special deal for you guys. Not that I wouldn't always love to do a special deal for you guys.
Well, I just think, as Gary said, we just need to keep from micromanaging party by party, night by night, and come up with something. I mean, I have no problem with 11 o'clock. You know, I think because of the geology of where we live, especially people who live downtown, you know, there is more of an impact if you have music facing out on the river. There's residences on the river that I'm sure hear music a lot louder than if you have music facing towards your restaurant because you're not facing a residential area. But all in all, I mean, since we're doing a onesie, I mean, I don't know how other people feel about just bringing this in, and I'm not even sure what the question is. Do we set a flat time? Is that the question? Is that what you're thinking, Gary, or what?
I was thinking about, yes, granting this and then re-looking, because it's not clear here where it says town policy on liquor licenses has been to primarily require outdoor employment stand at or before 10 p.m. You know, and then we have to approve these onesies. I would rather, you know, yes, let's move forward with this, but let's become clear on overall policy for town to say what we would like to see, involve the business owners, involve everybody, because, you know, I'd like to see some more vitality. When I hear music from my house up on the hill, I mean, I come on downtown, something's going on. I mean, and I hear Heather's, and they're not always super quiet by 10 o'clock, and it's, you know, you can hear it. I think it was the volume that's the big issue, and I think we can address that through, you know, working with all our business owners, and we don't have to be the big evil people and work with the community. But I'm in favor of doing something here and looking at it overall.
Well, it sounds like that's kind of where people are. Is there like a consensus on 11? Do we need a motion?
Yes, that would be
Okay,
great.
I would make a motion that we allow Tempranillo on the appointed date to play recorded music until 11 p.m. at a reasonable and civilized volume level.
I'm all for that. I think that's the most important part.
You
It's
can't
just
second this. Is there a second?
Second.
I'm here all the time.
Now,
I'm so
further
comfortable
discussion.
talking, I can't.
Okay, if there's no further discussion, all in favor?
Aye.
Thanks for coming in,
Can I
Laura.
just say thank you?
Are you still at Food and Wine?
Food and wine's done.
Is it done?
Yeah.
From yesterday.
You're not
Laura?
sleeping there.
Laura, are you having limos drop off and pick up?
What?
Are you having any of the limo services drop off and pick up? Are they shuttling in?
Yes,
Okay.
yes. It's 120 people, so most of them are staying downtown, but I know they do have some
Have fun.
Yeah.
Okay, the next item is second reading of ordinances. 8A, public hearing and second reading of ordinance number 8. An ordinance of the town approving a contract for the purchase of Unit 321 Riverside Plaza Lot BC condominiums located at 355 Gold Rivers Court. Judy.
So this is our one bedroom over at the Riverside building. We have some other units, and still working with one, and we're going to do it with the line of credit. So any questions, if nothing's changed since last time?
I've heard this one before. Okay, this is public hearing. Is there any other staff comments or anybody before we open the public hearing? Okay. So we're going to open the public hearing at 6:57. Does anybody in the public have any comments or questions regarding this? Did you get what it was? Okay. All right. Hearing no comments, we'll close the public hearing. Go to council. Comments? Yes.
I've been looking at this a lot from the point of view of a parent whose son is wanting to move back and possibly find a place to buy. And I know this is a real opportunity for the town, but we've picked up 3 units now, I think, in the last 6 to 9 months. And I just want to make sure that we're not recognized as the place to go to if you have a unit that's got some thing around it that, because we'll buy it, we'll just jump in there and just buy it. I want to make sure that if we hear of something before it goes on the market, that maybe we should think about it and suggest that we start to establish some kind of a affordable housing list for people that live here, not just, people that are essential to provide services for the citizens from the town, but people that are already here that can't find a place to live. So I think it'd be really important not to look like we're grabbing up every unit that comes on the market. We've got to start to figure out how to get these out to the right people at the right time. And they are affordable. I mean, you can't find a 1 bedroom for whatever, $225,000. That's amazing.
We would very much like to finish working on the housing corporation, but we've been talking about since we finished the trailers. It's just my fear is that if we wait for that, we will miss some of these opportunities. So I do think we have work to do and some things to define, but.
Can I just suggest that before we grab another one off the tree, we have some of that figured out? Okay, thanks.
I think all in all, though, I think that the council's, and I would assume the community's pretty supportive of the fact that you are grabbing units. And I agree with Rick, and I don't know if it's a lottery or what, but we can't keep everything for our own in-house people, because there are lots of people that deserve to be considered for these houses. So, other comments or motion? Yeah.
Well, my only comment is, once we do this, housing corporation thing, that stuff is going to be figured out. I look at this as, I feel remiss back in 2006 and 2007 not picking up more of these units, and I don't want us to lose out the opportunity to get units when we can, because we talk about affordable housing, and this is a much easier way of getting affordable housing than having to go out and build some. So, yes, I do agree with Rick a lot that we need to figure out how to do that, but I definitely appreciate town staff going out and finding these and adding to our inventory, something we should have done a long time ago, and I'm happy we're doing it now.
I would just say that we need to keep trucking and doing what we're doing, because we're probably adding more affordable housing inventory than we have in a number of years. I would be satisfied, rather than waiting until we have a housing authority, if at least we just had an outline of.
Yeah, that's all.
Was that it?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't want the, you know, I just
Yeah.
want the
No, we'll give
guidelines.
some direction at a work session, because you're absolutely correct with the calls from all three.
And I'll tell you, just real quick, the point of view on affordability between my age group and a 32-year-old single guy with a good job is about as wide as the river apart. So we need to kind of look at the demographic and who the market is for some of these units, because, you know, $351,000 for 1,200 square feet doesn't scare anybody away if they have the, it's just amazing how it's changed.
If there isn't anybody else, is there a motion?
I move approval, ordinance number 8, series of 2015, which is approving the contract for the purchase of 321 Riverside Plaza, Lot BC condominiums.
Second.
Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thanks, guys. Next item is resolution number 30 of the Town Council of Basalt, directing town staff to utilize a portion of the general beautification funds in the 2015 town budget to implement phase 1 of the Basalt Chamber Sign Committee's wayfinding signage plan. James Lind. And his sidekick. His lovely sidekick. His
Lynn
lovely
Mace,
assistant.
the chair of the chamber.
Happy name.
As the mayor indicated, this is consideration of a resolution to direct staff to utilize some of the beautification funds that are in this year's budget for fabrication and the installation of the Chamber Sign Committee's wayfinding plan. The Chamber Sign Committee has developed a wayfinding plan, and it's in your packet. It's to help visitors find their way from the Basalt Avenue roundabout into downtown. As a bit of background, the wayfinding plan was somewhat born out of the concepts and ideas that came from the P&Z priority discussions and charrettes that they conducted in 2013. As a result of the charrettes, the P&Z created a short-term and a long-term vision map, which are included in your packet for the area between the roundabout and downtown. The maps include entry features, they include lights and other elements to lead visitors downtown from the roundabout. In that spirit, the Chamber Sign Committee came up with this draft plan that's in your packet. The plan includes elements that are identified as A's and elements that are identified as B's on your site plan. The A elements are directional signs, similar to this, that point to the right there to get downtown and to get to the Brudai and Farmpan Valley. And then there are B elements that are these fish elements, and this page is coming up, sorry. They're little mid-block emblems that include 4 different trout at each element, and they include speckled patterns to represent the 4 different types of trout that we have here in the valley. And the A elements are proposed here, as you can see on the site plan. Can you move this over? One is proposed just as you're getting off the roundabout, moving towards the library. And then the second directional sign, the A element, is at the corner of Midland Avenue and Emma Road in this location. And then the B elements, the trouts, are proposed along the trailer park fence here. And then the second set of them is proposed kind of here at the corner across from the library. The idea and the concept is that you follow the trout into town as a wayfinding element. The Chamber Sign Committee has run the proposed plan by the P&Z to make sure it was consistent with their vision in the 2013 charrettes that they did, and the P&Z has indicated that it is in keeping with the ideas that they had come up with. It was also reviewed by the mayor's cabinet, and they provided a positive reaction. So the sign committee has come to the council this evening to see if the council is interested in funding up to $28,000 for the first phase, which once again is 2 directional signs and 2 sets of the 4 trout elements. So this evening, staff would recommend hearing from the other chamber sign committee members, then taking public comments and providing council discussion. Ultimately, if council likes the plan and wants to fund it for the installation in the late summer, early fall this year, the council could approve the reso that you have in your packet.
I did put,
Yeah,
question here.
sure.
What is the overall description of the beautification funds?
The beautification funds, and you'll actually see it in a later memo that's in here.
Okay.
It was kind of a broad category for general beautification, signs, and art pieces and other elements.
And banners on
Banners.
But this isn't like moving things around, this is where it belongs, right?
It would be where
Yeah,
it belongs,
it's fine.
yes.
Okay. Anybody? I've already seen this, I thought it's awesome, but.
And we do have other members from the sign committee. We've got Lynn Mace, who's the chair, and we've got Bennett Bramson and Tim Bolinski, I think, the other ones that are here.
Yeah, Bernie.
Question, James. What's the financial situation of the 100,000? How much have we spent? What have we got left to spend if we do this?
Well, we spent some on banners for around town, and I think that's about it at this point.
So we're probably
not halfway in.
not half. So this will take us about halfway.
Probably take us about halfway.
And somebody has some good ideas on us to spend the money on other beautification between now and the end of the year?
More than likely.
All right.
You bet. That's my question, is, you know, before I had approved 28,000 to come from it, that's a third of almost 100,000. What else is there to come? I mean, so that's my worry about spending this much on only 8 signs when.
Well, there is an idea and a concept that will be coming out of the BBC area of town on the south side. They'll be looking for a monument sign, but we're just now getting started on talking about that because we had to have the underpass plans developed before we could even talk about that. So you're probably looking at a 2016 budget item for consideration.
That's what I was going to ask.
On that one. We've got banners underway for development to replace the current banners that we have.
And we may get some public art depending on, but, you know.
But they'll be, probably small pieces at a time on the public art.
Yeah, that another question. Are we expecting the committee on the arts to be able to come up with something that we could act on before the end of the year out of this budget?
Potentially.
Yeah.
More than likely, we come out of the 2016 budget by the time you acted on it.
Okay.
So, as I looked at this, I think they're great. That sign we put in the roundabout is fantastic in my opinion. But all 8 of these trout signs are lined up as you exit out of the roundabout around to the post office. Is there any opportunity there to reduce that and use them somewhere else, or?
Well,
It seems sort of, you have right on this first exit out of the roundabout, you have 4, then you have 4 going around the corner at the
in the
post
overall
office.
In the overall plan, there was a thought that there might be a need to have some sort of element here as you're coming into the roundabout to help lead you in. But given the fact that we're going to be doing the underpass and all kinds of construction is going to be going on, we felt that maybe a later item for consideration.
Nick is here, who designed this fabulous thing for us, if you want
Okay.
to.
Well, it just seems like a lot of 8 signs from
Hi, Nick.
200 or 300 feet. I like it. I'm just asking the question. It's not gonna.
It provides a lot of continuity and a lot of reinforcing what you're looking for as a tourist comes into town. And we thought they were just adorable. So there.
I do too.
But I think your point is well taken, that there may be an element that might be needed coming in before you hit those signs, but we thought the underpass construction would push that off. to a
Well, the
future.
thing is these things are probably movable if
Yes.
in
Yeah.
fact you wanted to move them. So I'm in to get them on the ground. They're awesome. And I think that I, for one, can't micromanage what you guys have been thinking about for so long. Yeah.
I move approval of resolution number 30, directing town staff to utilize a portion of the general beautification funds.
Second,
Is there further discussion?
Yeah.
Okay.
I just want to say we cannot have too many trail leading into town.
And you know, as far as expediting it, when you bring up BBC, it gives me a flashback to the discussions with how we developed some signage for that area over there, and it was a nightmare for about 3 years. So I hope we're not going to repeat that same stuff.
Okay, well,
I'm not sure it's made everybody happy, but it sure took a long time.
what made everybody happy?
The signage on the other side that's kind of incorporated in this next phase of this sign program.
Well-
You mentioned BBC in here
Right.
a couple times.
The sign committee was going to work on BBC, but because of the underpass, we couldn't, so we decided to back up
Go on
and
this.
do
Okay.
the
So-
loop into town. BBC has actually hired Nick to, not yet. Well, they said they were going to do some preliminary design work for their own signage over there. When we get, our next project will be the BBC sign, because there
Okay.
were supposed to be 4 monument signs. One there, one at the design center, and one at Willits.
And there's
Okay.
one other replacement sign that we should probably just mention, so that's not a surprise, but when as part of the Willits, we kind of borrowed the community sign that's on the Whole Foods sign, and we lose that when the hotel comes in. So part of the budget intention is that we replace a community sign out there in Willits. So
The budget,
we'll back some
this
of that.
28,000 or
No, the 100,000.
the rest of it?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's
Yeah.
to Gary's point, there's more
Yeah.
coming. Okay,
Yeah.
signs always interesting.
So what I think I'm hearing a little bit from around the table is maybe you can't be clairvoyant in 2016, but it would be kind of fun for us to be able to say, in 2016, we're going to ask for this much budget, and we're going to do this in March, and this in May, and this, that's
I know,
kind of,
we got behind.
Well,
Okay.
also the idea was that when we did the Public Art Commission,
right.
we were going to kind of
I know, I mean, you can't lock
merge.
it
Well,
in.
it's
but-
not really the sign committee's budget; it's the town's beautification budget. So-
Right, but I'm just saying, if there's a schedule associated with it, it's a little bit more tangible,
You will have
meaningful.
one.
Thank you, dear.
You're
Okay,
welcome.
we have a motion and a second for quite a while. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you very
Thank you,
much.
Nick, for your work.
This is-
And thank you for all the hard work on the committee. You
Yes,
guys did
thank
great
you.
stuff.
You are
Good job.
welcome. This is so exciting.
And you're so easily happy. Okay, the next resolution is approving an intergovernmental agreement between the town of Basalt and CDOT for maintenance of the Basalt Avenue pedestrian underpass. Mike?
So when you're working with CDOT on a project that includes their right-of-way and includes money that they're providing either through the federal government or through their agency, one of the things they want to make sure is in place before you even get to bid is an agreement on the maintenance of that project. So this is the standard CDOT contract. Tom Smith has been through it. The most important items are Exhibit A and Exhibit C. Exhibit A defines those areas that the town is responsible for, and exhibits and what the state's responsible for, and then Exhibit C is the actual map. And within the contract, they even tell you how to read the documents in determining what you're responsible for. First is the contract, second is Exhibit A, which is the written word, and third is Exhibit C, which is a map.
Okay. This is a resolution. Does anybody have questions or comments or motion?
I make a motion that Madam Mayor, the council adopt resolution number 31 of 2015 regarding approving the IGA with CDOT for maintenance of Basalt Avenue underpass.
Second.
Further discussion, all in favor? Oh,
Just
further-
real quick, it's a significant scope that they define,
Mm-hmm.
365 days a year. So anticipate there'll be some sort of public works line item that
Right.
says here's what we're gonna do.
Well, I find that the chuckle also applies to them for 360.
Yeah, but they only get to control dry land grasses and we're gonna do everything else. So, I'm fine with it. I just,
Yeah.
it's a,
Their road
it's a
service-
big, yeah, that's a big deal.
Yeah.
But, it is a lot of work for someone
Mm-hmm.
to do that, so, anyway.
Yeah, Mark?
And we're funded for the $2,016,000.
Yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Great. Okay.
Oh, one more quick one. Is there, any, opportunity here to share any big maintenance items? Or are we strictly on the hook for what's defined in the scope down the road, 10 years?
What's defined in the scope? So, if you went long-term, what you do is you set up a capital reserve, what you're gonna see in the CIP. And a capital reserve allows you to account for things like underpasses that you have to maintain in what I call year 15 through 30.
Okay.
We lost somebody in the meantime. Are we moving on? Ready, everybody? On your mark, it's set 9C for, yes, it is. Resolution of the town approving a pre-development agreement with the Arts Center at Willits. Susan?
Well, tonight we have 4 members of the TCA board here. Michael Lipkin is going to be taking the lead, but we also have Mark Breslin and Dick Carter and Jeff Orsolak are all here from the TCA board. And this item is coming to you from 2 prior work sessions. The most recent one was at the last meeting, the June 9th meeting, where the town council gave favorable input for TCA moving forward on 2 pieces. One, to move forward to the step of getting a lease from the town for the 0.74 acres that's the town park arts parcel in Willits. And then the second piece of that was to allow them to access the RETA funds, the real estate transfer assessments funds that were specifically set aside to build and maintain an arts center on that particular tract. So what we have today is the pre-development agreement in front of you, and I'll just highlight a couple things that are in the agreement. And I apologize, there's a bust in the copying. Page 5 is in there twice, but if you look at page 5 at the top, it's the financial investigation. And basically, under the pre-development agreement, TCA has until March of 2016 to come to a final development agreement and get their land use approvals to proceed. And as part of that, there's this financial investigation. I think Bernie, Commissioner Grauer, spoke the most on this item at the last meeting. And so this paragraph C is addressing this financial analysis that would happen during this time period, where we would look at the cost of development, of the actual development itself, and the cost of the operations, and make sure that the project was financially feasible and not a burden to the town. The language on those first 5 items was written by Bruce Kemmel, the town's financial advisor. Bruce and Michael Lipkin had an initial conversation. Michael submitted some of the information prepared to date. And then the second piece of that financial consideration is to do an appraisal of the property so that we can show it, have a fair market value of the property to show on our asset sheets, as was pointed out that we needed to do when we did the homestead lot. Another important part of the pre-development agreement is the access to the real estate transfer funds, you see that on page 4 under item K. And the pre-development agreement directs us to prepare a supplemental budget for up to $130,000. After we wrote this, Michael Lipkin did send a revised budget for something smaller than that, but this allows them to go up to $130,000 in 2015 using those restricted funds. And then during that time period, they would need to, if they wanted to use funds in 2016, actually make a request for us during the budget cycle. So just like in normal pre-development agreements, it has that standard language about figuring out who's, how is infrastructure going to be provided and paid for, and that's probably just something also to kind of flag because on this particular site, it will need infrastructure that's off-site. So whether that can be kind of front-ended by the Willits developer or is the town a partner, those are all kind of discussions that we'll need to have. And that's the framework that's set out in the pre-development agreement. That's, I think that all I wanted is my introductory remarks. Michael, did you want to add something?
I think unless there are questions, I think we covered it pretty well last week. And I think Susan has brought you all up to speed on what we've been discussing over the past 2 weeks.
Yeah, Herschel.
And so in the pre-development agreement, we are just discussing that parcel and not any other parcel that they've also requested.
Correct.
Okay.
We are
And also the funds are just those funds that are from the restricted fund for this purpose at Willits.
Correct.
Okay, there's no other budgetary promises we're making.
No, none at this time.
And I always like to remember that all these pre-development agreements, I think, are a great idea, a little bit of a roadmap of what the discussion's going to be. And it always says, nothing contained shall obligate the town to create or approve the development, obligate the town to create or approve a development plan, or obligate either party to enter into a final development agreement. So it's a wonderful discussion place to go for everybody, so you know where we're going next. Anybody have questions or?
I'll make a motion to approve Resolution 32, Series of 2015, approving pre-development agreement with the COP.
Second.
Further discussion?
I
Yes, sir.
wanted to say something,
Sure.
so now's the time. Well, I welcome this opportunity, but I, read it with some oversight concerns, and I just want to be clear I understand what we're getting into. We say, okay, the financial investigation, we've got until March of next year, but we are proposing to advance your organization up to $130,000 this year for different activities before we know whether this is going to really fly 100% or not. So the way I see it, we are taking some risk, but we want to get this started and going. I would ask for a little clarification on the events, donor functions, $25,000. That's not all going to be feasting, is it? The budget here, the pre-development cost, events, donor functions, $25,000.
That's marketing too. And marketing.
Okay, well, so this you feel is realistic to kick off the excitement, the marketing, and what it takes to get you to the March fiscal reliability.
That's great.
Okay, so I'm in favor of it, but I want you to know we're giving you, these are not small amounts of money for our small town budget, and we're placing a lot of faith in your organization, and we have a lot of high hopes for what you can do. I would say when we get to the financial oversight in March, I would be concerned that if we enter into a long-term lease, that we have access to financial reports and your budget on a regular basis going forward. That to me would be one of my main concerns, is that the organization remains viable and intact because we have a long-term lease. And if you don't continue that way, where does that put the town with this long-term lease and this very desirable piece of property? But I support it, and I wish you well.
Thank you.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Go, make it so.
Get to work. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Appreciate it.
Thank you for coming. Okay. Okay, 10A, public hearing and first reading of Ordinance 9 of 2015, an ordinance of the town approving a contract for the purchase of Unit 322, Riverside Plaza, Lot BC, condominiums located at 355 Gold Rivers Court, Judy Tippett's Deja Vu.
Same building, 2 bedrooms. And so, again, this is the one, so this would be number 6. So we have 6 out of the 8 units in this building. And the one change that we wanted to make, just for the critical time, is to have a second reading set for July 14th instead of July 28th.
Okay. Okay, this is a public hearing. We'll open the public hearing at 7:25. Is there anybody out there who has a comment or question, anything regarding this purchase? Okay, we'll close the public hearing. Council?
I move approval of,
Ordinance 9.
is it 9?
Yeah.
9, yes, I'm sorry. I
It's
lost
okay.
track of it. 9. And set for a second reading on the 14th.
Second that motion.
Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thanks, guys. Thanks again. Okay, 10B, first reading of Ordinance 10, Ordinance of the Town, amending Ordinance Number 5, Series of 2015 regarding the membership composition of PAC. Susan.
This came out of the discussions that we had on the Public Arts Commission at the last meeting, where the council gave us direction to appoint a member from the Wiley and from Pecah each. They also directed us to create an alternate position. So the idea here is this ordinance creates the alternate position, and then once we have second reading on that, we'll appoint the alternate position from the Wiley. And we went ahead, staff went ahead and recommended changing the ordinance to say that you would have at least 1 member from the Wiley and 1 member from Pecah. Go ahead and just put it in the ordinance if that's what you meant, so that this ordinance includes that too.
As well. Okay. This one is not a public hearing, so if there are comments, questions, motions.
And so these 2 seats are absolutely designated and dedicated, one to Wiley, one to Tacoma.
Right, they can have they have to have at least 1 and not more than 3, including the alternate for the Wiley, and for the Pecah, at least 1, not more than 3, so they can have more than 1.
Assuming those organizations are in perpetuity.
And if they're not in perpetuity, then we would have come back and amend the ordinance.
Amend the
Yeah.
ordinance. I'm fine with that.
Okay, Madam Mayor, I move that council adopt the ordinance amending ordinance number 5, series of 215, regarding the membership composition of PAC.
Is there a second?
Second.
And set the first reading and second reading for
Oh.
the 20th.
Yeah, and first reading on the second and set the second reading for the public hearing of July 28th, 2015.
Great. Okay, did we get a second? I can't remember.
I did.
You did, okay. Further discussion?
What, are there terms
Yes,
for this?
yes, they're alternating terms. And the alternate, we just put 1 year, and there's alternating terms. So when we made the appointments, we made them for specific terms.
2 years?
Well, we did them on staggered terms so that they aren't all at one time. There's 3 3-year terms, 2-year terms, and 1-year terms.
3 of each.
Got it.
Not total.
Anybody else? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you. Okay, 10C is back to public hearing and first reading. It's ordinance 11, an ordinance of the town granting special review amendment approval to allow for an additional vehicular entrance to the waste management, recycling, and waste compacting facility at 15 Park Avenue, Basalt. James.
Thanks. This is a pretty simple request. It's a special amendment request for Waste Management of Colorado to add an additional vehicular access to their recycling and waste compacting site on Park Avenue. The project and the site is located on the corner of Willets Lane and Park Avenue. Here's Willets Lane, here's Park Avenue. Their current entrance is right here off of Park Avenue. They would like to add a secondary entrance off of Park Avenue in order to accommodate the public recycling access. The applicants have had some issues with their waste compacting trucks conflicting with the public recycling access when they have one entrance. As you know, recently, as of last year, the East Basalt recycling facility was removed by Pickens County. So they've experienced a significant influx of public recycling traffic, and they didn't anticipate that when they established the recycling program at the site. So they believe this secondary entrance will kind of better organize it and make an improvement and reduce conflicts. Staff agrees. Staff feels that this is the improvement to the site and it will better organize the recycling portion of the activities that happen on the site. This evening, staff would recommend taking applicant comments, taking public comments because it is a public hearing, and providing council discussion. The P&Z did weigh in on this. They recommended approval with the conditions that you have in your draft ordinance. They did bring up that they wished there were additional hours for the public recycling, but they didn't make that a requirement or a condition. We've got Kevin here this evening from Waste Management. Kevin, you have any comments or?
Yeah, thank you, Dave.
Hi, Kevin.
Hi, thank you, Beth. This is 100% a safety request. We have one gate which has become a tremendous amount of traffic going through that gate. Not only my trucks that come in there on the hour and disposing recyclables to be transferred to Denver, but we also have the transfer trucks coming into the facility that go to Denver. We also have trucks that go west that come in, usually tandems, trailers behind semis coming in there. And what I've found is we're getting about 75 to 100 cars a day in the busy times going in between trucks and so forth, and it's really asking for trouble. A lot of us at Waste Management are really focused on proactive projects to prevent incidents, and this has got that written all over it. I would much rather be talking to you, finding you today, rather than talking to you later, that we've had a significant amount of accidents and injuries at this location, and now let's react to fixing it. So we haven't had anything there, and I cringe every time I'm down there with the amount of traffic and cross traffic and lack of direction. So the second gate is going to allow us to kind of segregate the public traffic from the construction and the commercial traffic and light trucks basically. So it's a proactive attempt to prevent an incident is what it is.
Makes sense. Good.
Question is, what are your hours that you're at that site?
8 to 3 Monday through Friday.
No, I mean not the public access, but the
We
staff.
get there usually 6:30 and we're there at 4:30, something like that. So an hour and a half early, an hour and a half late.
Okay. I was just checking why we couldn't keep, if it's gonna be a separate entrance, why it can't stay open till when you're pulling out of there, just to address, the comments we received about extra hours and more time to do it.
It's again, if I can answer, it's a safety question or safety as well. All the cans you see there, the cans are actually going to be more of a right angle than that circular that you see there that they are now, but we have to pull them and dump them and put them back in the mornings and so forth. So it's a matter of not having people in and amongst the cans as we're hooking them and loading them and so forth. So that's really it as far as available hours right now. So it's just a matter of operating outside of public.
Well, Saturday.
Saturday we're not staffing it currently just for budget reasons, but not the plans of the future staffing.
Is there a curb and gutter cut?
No.
So no, nothing that town owned that they'll have to, okay.
No.
Anybody else?
Well,
Gary that 8 to 3 is probably the least convenient time for most people to go to the Recycle Center. If there could just be a Saturday for half a day or whatever it is, it'd be nice. And we're adding an extra vehicle access here near an intersection that could be a little tricky from the point of view of people getting in and out of there and people turning left and right onto Lewis Lane and all that stuff. So I don't know, maybe take a look at that. If we can, I don't think you're going to get a no vote, but it would be, you've seen a, what, 10-fold increase in what you anticipated or something like that in the recycling opportunity, you know, since this closed. When did it go up? Went up quite a bit, right? When this place closed?
Yeah,
Volume-wise? Yeah, got hammered. So part of the necessity for this is this closed, and I think maybe having more hours might take away some of that impact from 8 to 3 on Monday through Friday. And if you're shut down on the other side of the business on a Saturday, maybe the recycle center could operate more safely. So just a thought. I mean, you're going to have to go there eventually, I bet.
I did bring a colleague with me, Lance Allen, who's on public sector, so he might be able to add some light to that.
I think the problem, I appreciate being here and meeting all you guys for the first time, but I think part of the problem is, as you mentioned, the increased volumes coming in there, and I don't know if you've watched the media, but the state of recycling today is very difficult with the strong dollar, with the decrease in oil, with the problems we had at ports of getting moving material. The value of the commodities is probably the lowest it's been in years. So with that added volume, all that's doing is adding cost to us. And so we are struggling right now making ends meet with recycling right now, especially the salt. So to add additional hours is adding the additional costs. I'm afraid that would be the tipping point that would put us over the edge to be able to actually continue to accept the public material.
Well, I guess I would just have to echo what these guys are saying, that we do get a lot of pressure from the public, because even though we're a rural area, you know, we've been used to having accessible recycling for years now. But, and I'm just throwing this out there, I'll probably get slapped by everyone, but I mean, given that this is a public good, you know, Eagle, Pitkin, Basalt, we all share in this benefit. If it were to be open a half a day on Saturday, is there some way we could come up with the $1.99 a Saturday and pay somebody and help out with that? Would you consider that?
We definitely consider something.
I mean, could you come back to us and say this is what it would cost to staff this for half a day on Saturday? Because like Rick said, if you have a job, you're never going to recycle. Unless you have curbside, and not everybody, I have curbside, but not everybody has curbside. So if you could just maybe put something together, and we've got potentially partners, and it just cannot be that much for 4 half days a month that we couldn't consider it.
Yeah, and no, that'd be great. And actually, that would probably be a broader conversation that we'd like to have as well, to actually discuss the true cost of providing a recyclable, you know, program in the valley. It's not just staffing it to collect it, but the cost of getting it to a facility that will process it, and the cost of processing the whole thing. We'd love to come back and present a whole I guess, proposal or presentation on the costs associated with doing that.
And if it's not as financially feasible for you as it was once, it is still extremely feasible and needed for the public good. So
for the long-term diversion.
Yeah, so maybe you could hook up with our staff and just we'd figure out if we need to get partners in the same room as well, and see if that's a possibility.
We'd love to do it.
Yeah, thank you, and I appreciate that, and that's definitely where we're headed. We want to bring more discussion about this center to you. First and foremost is every hour that we're operating with one gate is a risk that I'm trying to eliminate, so that's the motion tonight, so thank you. But as Lance mentioned, we do and have plans to come back and talk to a much broader discussion about the feasibility and sustainability of this facility as well, so thank you.
All right. Okay, any questions, thoughts, or motions on?
That's a good
Open a
point.
public hearing? Is this one a public hearing?
Yeah.
It is.
How crazy is that? All right, this is public hearing. We're gonna open the public hearing at 7:36. Anybody in the public have a comment, question, thought, related? Robin? Okay, I like the ideas.
Okay.
And I support these guys.
Okay, thanks. On that note, we will close the public hearing, go to council.
Move approval of ordinance number 11 on first reading and set the second reading for July 28th.
Second.
Further discussion?
Just real quick, I think that landfill on Carbondale's been closed now for a while. The next closest one is South Canyon, and then the next one after that is Basalt. So we keep having, which has raised their tip fees, to the point where people are actually going to South Canyon with construction debris and trash, and clearing grub, and Basalt, and container issue. Dumpsters on backs of trucks is becoming more of a way to handle it. It's a pretty big deal for those of us that utilize those services on a daily basis.
We were told this was coming since I was in second grade.
Not to mention that the stuff that you're recycling really is worth anything.
Exactly. Okay, I think we have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you
Thank you.
for coming in. I think that is our last regular item, unless I've got my wrong glasses on.
Do we have an executive?
We have to stay here till
We do.
8 o'clock.
Okay, well, let's stay there.
Yes.
I move
Yes.
that the town council enter an executive session for the purposes of determining positions relative to matters that are may or become subject to negotiations in accordance with CRS 24-6-4024E and A. Well, do we need the other piece? The conference with our attorney? No, so just that one.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Great, we are in a session.